Hello, everybody, and welcome to Conservatish, episode 263. No, 264. I always get that right. Wherever you're listening, make sure you subscribe, share, rate, and review. My name is Peter Edgar Feliciano. You can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano, Feliciano, or on Twitter at Rule62Peter. And you can support this podcast and my music and all of my memes and all my wonderfulness at patreon.com/conservatish or at Venmo at Peter-Feliciano. Ladies and gentlemen, the wonderful Amy Ichikawa is with us today. Yay! The glorious, the wonderful. And I'm very excited to talk about many things, and we'll see where the conversation goes. I love always, going organic, but I especially love the fact that you're working, advocating specifically for women in prison. It's stories that don't get told nearly almost ever, much less enough. And especially now that men are being put in prison with women, it's something we really got to talk and focus on a lot. So please introduce yourself and tell people where they can find you, please.
Okay, so I am Amy Ichikawa. I am the founder and executive director of the little teeny tiny nonprofit Woman to Woman. It is based out of my laptop, and we advocate, prepare women for board hearings. What else do we do? We do a lot of peer support. I actually just went to a court hearing today. And helped walk a family through the process of resentencing. I'm formerly incarcerated myself. I spent 5 years in the world's largest women's prison, which is Central California Women's Facility. And I left a big piece of my heart in there, and I promised I would never forget the things that I learned when I was there, besides, other things. I really learned a lot about being a woman and how important it is. And I grew my backbone in there. So the least I can do is reach back in and pull some people out, because I feel like I wouldn't be who I am today or where I am today if it wasn't for the women that I met inside.
Right. And you can also find her
Thank you.
on Instagram and on Twitter. I'll let that scroll for a little bit. So a little bit about kind of my backstory and why I'm extra kind of interested in this. So I'm sober 21 years. And one of the things I got to do, and it's one of the things I had to do or get to do, all of those things, to stay sober, is to do service. And one of the ways that service manifested is I got to bring spiritual meetings into prisons in California. Also jails, and we can maybe talk about the differences there. I honestly, when I started bringing meetings into prisons, I didn't even know there was a difference between jail and prison. But anyway, maybe we could get to the people's ignorance, and maybe I'm just the only one, but getting to be with those men is one of the most special parts of my life. And I don't think I've ever teared up on the show, but getting to be with those men, and these were people who did the worst things that a human can do to another human, right? Often lifers, often the, completely forgotten by society. And getting to go in there was a beyond a privilege. It was an honor for me. And I got to, apparently, thank God for them, I got to help them sometimes and help them kind of realize who they really are. And they did all the work. I mean, they're the ones, all of this spiritual stuff that we do is an inside job. And for them, it was double inside. Get it? Inside. And it's certainly, again, just to reiterate, because I've said this on the show, but I want everybody to know who just listened to me tell that story. it's not because I'm a good person. It's because I needed to do this to kind of be spiritual and stay alive. And the benefits, the after benefits were that it was the most special part of my life. And when I left there, I left California in 2019 to move to New York, and saying goodbye to them. And I mean, these one guys in this meeting I got to do were mostly Mexicans. And even though I'm half Puerto Rican, I don't speak very good Spanish. You know what I mean? So they had to translate some stuff, and I had to like bumble through my broken English. But they wrote me some letters, and it was just like the most, like it just. Anyway,
Like the way you're responding, the way that you're describing it right now, that's just how I thought it was. I didn't know that there was people that really hate these people. There's people that hate my people. It took me a really long time for that to sink in. Um, some ladies just had to really get in my ear and say, Amy, people don't generally um, love the prisoners like you do. And it was, I really had to spend some quiet time and be still and let that sink in, because it broke my heart. I was like, but why? I love you guys. You guys are my family. Like, why? Um, Jesus would have loved y'all too. Like, why? Why is it like this? And I still cry about it now. So the way you responded is just the way I thought that the general public was going to be when I said women in prison need help. But let me say it louder: women in prison need help, and nobody was digging it, and it was really confusing for me. But I guess I get it now.
right.
But that's very refreshing to know that you're crazy too.
Oh yeah, no, super crazy. Um, so one of the guys that I've known, and I would love to get into your history and things like that, and thank you for being open to talk about it. One of the guys I know did a lot of time down, over 20 years for murder. Got sober in prison, started kicking butt and changing his life and doing everything, and went to the board, and got out a few years ago. And not only has he become a very deep, like a very useful member of society, he also was the first. He was doing some volunteer work, and hopefully he comes on the show eventually. I've invited him, but he's a busy man. I'm a busy man, but. So this is a guy who did like time, right? For some bad. And he's doing some work. He's working for to teach volunteer firefighters. And one of the trainers in they do that a lot in Cali. And one of the trainers is like, "Hey man, you should try to like do this for work. Like you should become a." And he's like, "Nah, I got a record." He's like, "No, still you should try." He's like, "No. I got a record. Like not just like I stole something, like a record. He's like, still you should try." So my friend put his name in there and whatever, and he became the first with, I believe, first felon in Cali to become a firefighter.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and so I have that experience. Now, that's not everybody's experience. I know a few guys who went back to drinking and using and whatever. But I'm saying, like, this guy is proof manifested for me that grace is important. And let me delineate something for all those people who are like, just, thinking that everybody in prison is like Shawshank Redemption. There's a difference between loving somebody and zero consequences. Sometimes people hear you say, as an example, loving them, and they hear like, "Oh, just let them out," and like, relax, everybody. Let's delineate those things. But I mean, this guy is a manifestation of the true fact that people can heal. People can heal. So, yeah, I'd love to hear kind of your story of your upbringing. You're from Los Angeles.
I am. I'm from LA. Well, I'm from the Harbor. I was born and raised in Harbor City. It's in LA County. I came from a two-parent home. My dad's a retired Los Angeles County sheriff, and that kind of added another colorful layer to the storyline here. It was so freaking when I got arrested. I mean, when I was in lockup, when the people came to get me, they were like, "Wow, I haven't seen you since you were about 4. What's going on?" it was hard for him. But he was there, you know, first opportunity he had, he was there. He still rides for me. It's my ride or die. Um, I grew up, I loved my parents, I loved my family, I loved school. And then, I went to junior high and I don't know what happened, but became a chola and, all these identity crises. And I just was always looking for something. I was always looking for something. And I didn't have a lot of consequences. So I didn't really understand how serious those could be. And how old was I when I got cracked? I was 24, and that's late in life, for your first time to be arrested or anything serious. I was in a really toxic, destructive relationship, and that's how most women's stories start that I met in the pen. So there was this guy. We were seeing each other for 6 months, and within that 6 months period I got into incredible amount of debt, and then I was fighting life. um, it was like 2009 and the economy was really bad, and I had a great job. I worked with adults with developmental disabilities, and I had worked with them since high school because I volunteered there, and then I worked it into a position, and um, I just needed to supplement my income. So I sold drugs, and I was selling drugs on the weekends, and then I started getting greedy and screwing up, and I met this dude, and he was into a lot of other stuff I wasn't into. So, there was the am I getting into it right now, or I'm still like talking about my parents? No.
No, this is I have that effect on people. No, I'm just kidding. This is all organic, baby. You do whatever you need to do.
So, this dude, he walked into a bar, and I'm like totally depressed, going through something, and I was like, "Oh, guy's gonna ruin my life." And you know, it didn't take long. Uh, we were arrested after we had kidnapped somebody that owed him for a $20 stack at gunpoint in broad daylight. And, I'm driving the car. That was the point of time in my life where I could have made a totally different decision. Could have walked away. I could have not allowed this to happen. I could have done a whole lot of stuff, but I didn't.
You were 24 at that time?
Mhm. 24, never been arrested. Um, and, you know, this poor lady over a $20 stack, um, she got beat up. At one point, we had been driving around for a long time, so I was somewhat disoriented. I didn't really know what side of the hood we were on. And I looked in the rearview mirror, and she was about to get shot. So I jumped out of the car and ran because that was the line for me. And I pulled her up and said, "We're going to go home now." And put her in the car, took her back about a block away from her house, which is a block away from his house. And, you know, I didn't, again, this was another point where I could have made a different decision, but I didn't. I was instructed that I better beat this lady up. So I tossed her up for a little bit. And, this is totally uncharacteristic. This is not something I would have normally done. So it's all like surreal. I don't even, like, even looking back at it now, I'm like, how did I even get to that low point? How did I do this to somebody? So I'm apologizing as this is happening. And this poor girl is taking off her jewelry, like, "I'm sorry, I'll see you tomorrow." And I was like, no, no, no. But I have it. So that is another charge. Um, And then it wasn't long before the police found us because we didn't go very far because somebody needed some eggs. So never went to Denny's again. So this, I don't know. Well, it was in the hours of the night. You're not supposed to do anything because no good things are occurring at those times. And I was gonna.
And you're with obviously you don't need to incriminate anybody else, blah blah blah. But you're with a group of people at this point, or no?
Just the dude, just the guy I thought I was dating, and I was going to drop him off at home, which was around the corner from the scene of the crime. And he was proceeding to tell me that he didn't want to see me anymore. And I want to start arguing, and the entire police department comes, the helicopters come, and it was a wrap. We were taken to Long Beach Boulevard with the spotlights. We were positively ID'd because it's not too many times you get an APB out for a large Asian, and Simone was straight backs. It was easy to identify us. That was
for a Japanese chola. That's what you
Japanese gangster crip chola. It was all over the place, right? So I'm thinking, oh, okay, so this is battery, this is assault. I'm totally not thinking kidnapping for ransom, false imprisonment. I'm not. My head wasn't there at all. So when we were being processed, they were like, you're gonna roll. What are you gonna do? You can tell them this. What are you gonna do? And I was like, what are you talking about? I have to go to work in about 20 minutes. I'm thinking, I gotta go. So just give me my charges and I'll bounce. And they were like, you're not going anywhere. Ding dong. And then they start going through my phone, my stuff, and they see a picture of me and my dad, and he's in uniform. And they were like, oh, so this is your dad? I said, yeah, I love my dad. And, that's what they held against me. They said, you're never going to see your dad again. And I said, okay, I'm sorry. I beat her up. I'm so sorry. And that's when, they booked me for, it was about 8 felony charges. 2 carried live. My bail was 2.5 million. And then they asked me, who's this guy? Because he said he never met you before. It's the first time he ever seen you. And I was like, oh, why is he saying that, guys? And, I'm just still, reality hasn't set in yet. These detectives are like, we're going to help you. And I'm like, thank you. Thank you, guys. No, they're not going to help you. So I get booked. I'm in there and I'm like, you're going to leave me here? I'm just totally delusional. And my dad came to see me in the morning and he was like, how many episodes of Cops and 48 Hours and Law and Order have we watched together? How much training have you had to not talk? And you just told on yourself. And I was like, they told me I was never going to see you again. So it didn't matter. And he was just like, oh, this kid. And he came to see me faithfully for the next 5 years. But we had to take a deal because there was no way we could take it to the box. And I wound up with 5 years. They whittled everything down to criminal threats with a firearm. And since he had priors and was on paperwork, his was considerably longer than mine. But I got blessed. I wouldn't give back a single minute or a single day that I spent inside. I definitely cherish the time that I did spend in there because it saved my life. I probably would be dead if I wouldn't have gone to prison. So I don't have a lot of negative feelings towards it. It was a lifesaver for me. It's a lifesaver for a lot of people. This whole new concept that people are pushing about, harm reduction and, limited sentencing. This is not helpful. This is not helpful because seriously, I would be not here if I hadn't had my long-term timeout. I needed it really bad. So how I wound up here. And I learned. I feel like I got to meet people that other people never get to know. Um, I feel like I'm so lucky. I have all these friendships that are like treasures to me. Um, and man, when I came home, I really was lonely because you don't think about the fact that you're not alone for an extended period of time, or you're not in the dark, or it's never quiet. So
Mhm.
all of these things freak me out, and I just wanted to reconnect. So I just never lost touch, because they told me the truth. That was one thing that I will never ever forget, that they told me the truth and told me the stuff that nobody else was telling me. They were like, if a boy doesn't touch you, he does not like you. um, you know, the the B of A is not a loving nickname. This is not a pet name. This is
The what of what?
the Bank of Amy. The B of A is not a
Yeah, yeah,
nice. It's no, it's not. Um, they schooled me. They taught me a lot, and I just really appreciate the time that I was blessed with.
yeah. Thank you for sharing that story.
Oh, you're very welcome.
Yeah, I've there's a saying that sometimes gets passed around. It's like, don't save me from a hard, don't give me soft landings. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Because I need sometimes, not anymore so much, but I'm sometimes a guy who doesn't learn any other way. if if I kept getting soft landings, someone to come and swoop me and save me, or at least my definition of save me, um, I don't know if I would be alive either. You know what I mean? Because I was drinking and using at 15 years old. You know what I mean? I was
Mhm.
panhandling at 15 years old. I was not down with the life thing and the wicked white picket fence and all that stuff. I was already stealing all the time. I needed help, and it
Mhm.
needed to be drastic. But I remember I got sent to a 2-year emotional growth boarding school in Southern California. And yes, but like immediately, right? This was bad consequences, right? But immediately I put on the good look and I said, like, yeah, I decided to come here.
Mhm.
I was trying to petition my parents to take my GED at 15 years old, so I could go panhandle with my homeless friends who were 3 times my age. Like shit was not okay.
No.
And I wasn't, but I put on that full of shit right away, you know.
Mhm.
So I needed a longer, I don't know about 2 years, but obviously I wouldn't change anything from the past. But um, I needed to be put on a timeout too. You know what I mean? And I needed people around me who would call me on my shit when I needed it.
Mhm.
And those sometimes came from people who loved me, and sometimes they came from people who did not. Um, but either way, there's something that happens, for people, especially like I love that thing you were just talking about. The B of A is not a thing. Um, so it's almost like, and I don't mean almost, I mean it's like legit, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. It's almost like prison, like women in prison taught you that, like, no, you need to value yourself, Amy.
Mhm.
Like,
That is exactly what they taught me, that I need to stop hating myself. They were like, you're worth more than nothing, right? And I was like, what does this mean?
mm,
And I had to sit with that for a lot of years before I figured out I'm worth more than nothing. I'm worth more than nothing. I'm getting less than nothing.
right,
I'm worth way more than that, you know. Um, and I needed somebody to yell this at me for like 4 or 5 years before it finally sunk in.
right,
And I'm not even mad that they yelled it at me because I needed to hear it loud. Um, because they were like, "What do you mean? Somebody's asking you for a TV. You're in prison. You can't. The bank is closed. You're not
mm,
buying anything else for anybody except
right,
maybe me."
right, right,
um, but I didn't. I was just so used to seeing that in relationships, and I had it had really been normalized in my life. Like and I grew up on 90s gangster rap, and bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. But I didn't know that I was bitches ain't shit but hoes and tricks. I
hmm,
thought since I was saying it, it wasn't being applied to me, but I was wrong.
yeah,
Um, I was extremely wrong. But you know, you learn, you live and you learn. And the way I learned, I'm not gonna have any hiccups. I'm not gonna backslide, because it was really like points that were driven home very solidly. So
Right.
it's in my DNA now. I understand I'm definitely not worthless, and
Right.
that was the biggest present I could have come out with, you know.
Right. And people who, I'm also the type of person who I don't, sometimes, but like for the really important like lessons, I don't want to listen to somebody who's never gone through it. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Like, oh, you read it in a book? Wow. Like, I need people who felt as down as I did, who wanted to kill themselves like I did. I needed people who, needed, who couldn't stand sobriety as much as I couldn't stand it. I need people who, and to this day, when I get around somebody who like really like gets that, I'm like, there's something that unlocks in my belly. You know what I mean? I'm a little more willing to listen to them. I'm a little more willing to like follow them or like ask them, what do you think of this? Blah, blah, blah.
Mhm.
It's really important stuff. So obviously they knew your experience because they lived your life both in and out side, Um, let's touch on a point. Um, you were talking about you talked about the idea of harm reduction and things like that. And listen, if anybody has any ideas, if they whatever way they want to get well, God bless you, whatever. But there's this idea, like even amongst the, let's call them the white liberals. um, I had to bring it. I mean, they're the people I dunk on the most. But there's this idea of like, defund the police, or like, no consequences whatsoever for people. And not only is it on an individual basis not good for me to not have consequences for my shit fuck behavior, but
Mhm.
also it's not good for the people that I hurt. Right.
Right.
Like I hurt people.
Mhm.
And to have just no consequences because I had a bad childhood, that's not good enough. That's not good enough. And so obviously there's layers to that. Like I said, we delineated between loving someone and just letting them roam free and continue to hurt people. Obviously, we don't want that. But where along the line, or was it difficult for you to start separating those two things? That like having a consequence for my actions doesn't mean that it's not another confirmation that I'm worthless. Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Like for
Mhm.
me, when I would get a consequence, it was like, see, it's because I'm a piece of shit. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, no, you know what I'm saying?
It took a while for well, the first 2 years were real rough, but once I got over those hurdles, I finally accepted the fact that this is a huge blessing. I got this consequence because I am important and I am loved, because otherwise ass would have been grass, super dead. This was a gift. Like, I can't even explain how special that gift was. And it
Mm,
doesn't make hardly no sense, because
mm,
who talks about, losing 5 years out of their life like it's a present? But it was a great investment. I probably would have done great in the military, but I just did not have ears to hear at that point. But I didn't feel, uh, I didn't feel bad when they gave me my time. I didn't. I knew that I should have probably got a whole lot more, and I met people who did a lot less than I did and got way more time, that are still there, that are going to be there and might not ever leave there. And knowing that totally changed the way I get down too, because there were people who did the exact same thing I did and received 37 to life, life without the possibility of parole, and I'm prancing around with 5 years, like do do do. So I felt like this is my job to learn. I got to learn everything I possibly can from these people while I'm here, and I got to absorb this. I got to take all their life lessons. I have to take all the investments they've made in themselves, and I have to suck this up like a sponge, because this is crunch time. I've been screwing up for 24 years, not taking care of my mental health, my soul, anything. So it was like I was cramming for finals, but emotionally,
mm,
um, and I still cram now, because there's women in there that I got to talk to, and I'm like, oh, duh. yeah, that's what I needed to hear. Um, it just consequences are a part of love. They're so much a part of love, and people are so quick to misunderstand what love is. Love isn't always butterflies and chocolate chips and unicorns. Love is ugly. Love is like I for me, love, one of the most important parts is long suffering. The long suffering aspect of love. The parent who sits up crying and praying all night for their kid that's in the streets, or
Mm,
the parent who has to lock the door on their kid because they
mm,
can't let them in to
mm,
abuse them again, or um, it's just something that people they don't understand. They don't know what that is. But love, it takes on a lot of different forms, and it's not always pretty. Um, and consequences are one of them. If you really care about somebody and you want them to be a whole person who's full bodied and values life, you're going to give them consequences. Otherwise, you're literally hating them because you're letting them be have a license to just hurt themselves and hurt other people. That's nasty. Who does that?
right.
Oh, white liberals.
Right. I'm glad we met.
Me too, man.
I know. I'm the greatest of all time. No, I'm just kidding.
Really, I'm so glad that I stumbled across your art.
Thank you. That's
That was
very
such
good.
a good day. I was like
Oh
thinking
yeah,
about,
that song. That was the song I made. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which is everybody, by the way, women's sports is available now on Spotify and iTunes. Anyway,
oh, they need to buy it. They need to start, having
I know.
crowdfunding for you and have you at an event. Something's coming up in Austin. Maybe we get a
That's what I
coffee.
that's what I'm saying. I gotta get out of this one room shack or one bedroom shack here. You know what I'm saying? I feel
What
like
New
I'm in
York is
prison.
expensive
I'm just kidding.
though, right? Isn't it like bad like Cali?
What, Austin?
No, New York. Isn't it like mad expensive like it is out here?
Yes. I mean, I live in Austin now. I moved to Austin last year.
Oh, shut the front door.
No,
Well,
I will
I
not
think
shut the front door.
I think I'm gonna I'm pretty sure I got locked in. I gotta go out on like the 12th. There's gonna be a function. We're gonna link. This is gonna be great.
To Texas? Hell yeah, dude. Okay, well, let's get it. Man, I'm gonna get my shirt. I'm gonna button it only at the top, right? And I'm gonna get my Vans on, right?
That's very California. Yes,
Oh yeah.
man.
Mira la raza.
So
Um,
crazy. That's so not coincidental. I'm very glad.
God is good.
Mhm.
Um, now, so okay, so the consequences thing, we talked about that. I also want to also mention, because this is this show, just because we both are talking about the blessings of consequence doesn't mean that the government gets a blank check either. Oops. Oops. This is not a binary thing where it's just like, well, that means consequences. So now the government gets to get all of my tax money now because blah blah blah. Right. So, because as you talked about, there were people who did things worse than you and or less than you and got more
Mhm.
time. I wonder why the parole board doesn't take that into account. Hmm. I wonder why.
Gamble. That is not even. It is the most unstable, inconsistent gamble of people's lives I've ever seen ever. Um, how are you going to look at somebody that's got 7 to life and is on their 20th year in prison and tell them they need to gain more insight? How do you do that? And how do you choose the people who get to weigh someone's life out? Like,
Right.
what kind of college did you go to? When you get to pick whether people get freedom or not. Did you go to an Ivy League or did you go to a community college? What kind of qualifications do you have to control someone's life, liberty, and ability to pursue happiness? That's crazy to me. I would not be able to sleep at all. I would be completely off my rocker if that was my job. Um, and the people that they choose, it makes absolute. There is just it's nonsense. It's
Right.
nonsense. And they have a large budget. These people have $14 billion a year that they get to juggle with, and
And you mean
it's not fair.
California prisons?
Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
$14 billion. I mean, we do have 34 active prisons. Um, so that's a lot to take care of. But I mean, it's not like they spend what, $3.27 a day on people's food. They get $126,000 a year per inmate, and that's for someone who doesn't have extensive healthcare problems or wants, reconstructive surgery.
Hang,
Uh,
hang, hang, hang on. Let's clear it because this is. I know it's been bad, but this is interesting to get these numbers. 126 million
thousand a year per.
thousand. Okay, 126,000 per inmate. Now let's really go through what that really costs. Okay, guards. Yeah, all right, that would be a lot of money. Okay, got it. But I mean, I've been in a few prisons and they're not the highest quality living spaces, right?
No, no.
It's fluorescent lights, right? It's one color, shirt, maybe a white undershirt, sweatpants, blue with the yellow
They make
writing.
them. They're
Huh?
making so they save money on the production because the inmates make the clothing, they make the dentures, they make the glasses, they make the American flags. So they're not spending anything on outsourcing for these materials. They're saving a lot of money. Plus, they contract those people out and they make money off of their labor. So that's another source of income too.
Is that fire, like the fire camp similar situation that my friend was talking about?
Something like that, because those are people that are fighting fires that are on the front lines that get paid, I think, $3 a day, and their lives are at risk the same as anybody else's. Um, that's not good. And then people in PAA who make American flags and glasses and teeth and whatnot, they get paid like, I don't know, $3 or something as well. That's definitely cost effective and a bonus for the state. And then they tax everything, like your income. Your $12 check a month gets taxed. You get state tax, you get federal tax, you get tax for the inmate welfare fund.
The wait,
Um,
wait. They God damn it. Are you
yeah.
saying that inmates get taxed?
Oh yes. Even if your check is like $2, you're getting taxed. And there is actually a double tax that somebody put me up on game about. Um, they said, Amy, can you do some research on this? I said, yes, as soon as I get some time, I'm going to check it out. But they're double taxing. Where does that, even if it's 1 cent a paycheck, if that's been happening for 100 years to hundreds of thousands of people, that's a whole lot of money. That's a whole lot of money. Um,
And
it's
there's a
the
monopoly on the phone call, right? There's a monopoly
Oh,
on the
well, California made phone calls free, so you can call all you want.
Oh.
Um, all of a sudden, because it used to be like $15 a phone call back in the day.
Yeah.
But now GTL is, Mr. Monopoly, and they have inmates have state issued tablets now. So there's a GTL inmate email. It's more like texting, and it's 5 cents a message, and you can just go back and forth all day. But that's, you got to make sure your messages are full. um,
And that money goes to GTL?
right. And they have a lot of pending lawsuits. A lot of states have sued them for a lot of things. Uh, and they were probably paid handsomely to create these apps um, that the people inside had to teach me how to use because they're so user unfriendly.
Mhm.
Um, and it has opened some doors and provided some new forms of communication. People get to
Sure.
you could FaceTime on your tablet, but women's prison, over here it's an 8-man cell. There's 8 women in a room, and they're not turning the Wi-Fi off until like 10 o'clock at night. So if you got a young room or an active room, like there's people talking on the phone loud until 10 o'clock at night. I no, I can't like that. But they do need to get familiar with technology because it's gonna. Even I was tripped out when I came home, and I only did 5 years. So it's a step. It's a step. It's not exactly how I would have done it, but it's a provision. Um,
But it's
but
it's it's an extension of this idea that I always talk about. You ever heard of the economist Yaron Brooks? He's he's got a weird speech impediment. Anyway, he talks a lot about um, um, like true capitalism rather than just what we have now, which is capitalism protected by government, right? And government feeding off of capitalism in this horrible mix. And and one of the things to make a point, he holds up his iPhone. He's like, imagine the DMV making this. You hate the DMV, right? The DMV is one of the worst places in the world. Imagine if they were the ones who made this iPhone. It'd be impossible to use. It'd be
oh
cheap as
yeah,
shit, but it's still really expensive, and et cetera, right? So this is an extension of that, where it's just like, okay, we're gonna let the government, the same people in charge of the DMV and the post office and all that shit, who do things horrible, who are made up of a conglomerate of humans just like you and I, and who usually can't be fucking fired because of tenure and because of right again with the no consequences. They don't face consequences. Ta-da. Teachers who have tenure, you even if they're horrible, you can't kick them out. So I'm saying this is an extension of you give the government power to make something, and they'll maybe do all right. And that's
maybe.
what GT. That's what that is.
I mean, I'm looking at it like this looks like a junior high, middle school project over the summer that, two 11-year-olds who went to coding camp put
Right,
together because
right.
it's aesthetically, retarded. It's not great functionality. Why do you need three apps to make one app work? Are you new? I know you got like $1 million to make this at least. What happened here? Did you not go to school for this? What is going on? I know that if the people inside would have been given the opportunity to create one, it would have been very much more well made than this one. I don't want to complain too much because I don't have an alternative, but it it is lacking. It's
Right.
definitely lacking. Um,
So, more important than that, let's get into some juicier topics regarding an extension of the same thing we've been talking about. That the people in prison are humans, and they do struggle with some stuff needlessly. It's not just like, okay, we're going to face, the consequence. It's the fact that governments and profiteers are profiting off of their
yeah.
suffering as well. So, in what ways, like what things do women, what's the least, and we can get to the trans shit as well, but what's the least understood and most needed thing that you want to talk about regarding female inmates?
I think healthcare is very important, mental and physical health care. Um, those things are incredibly lacking. Um, there's stuff that happens in there that is so bad, it's unbelievable. Um, it was just a few years ago that they stopped giving women forced hysterectomies uh, for no reason other than Dr. Heinrich not wanting them to reproduce and cost the government more money. They are still actively exercising their eugenic bone in the prison system. It's never stopped. It has never stopped. It's a permanent science project in there. Um, I think they got to be getting kickbacks from big pharma because they'll go through phases where they get everyone addicted to this drug and this drug. It's a science project. It's literally um, ground zero for human experimentation. It's crazy. Um, when I was there, everybody was on uh, Neurontin and Lexapro. Lexapro, um, that was like the flavor of the month. They were just giving it out to everybody.
It's a anxiety or antidepressant.
I think maybe both.
Okay.
I was bored one summer and decided to go ahead and do that. And I started to talk like Mickey Mouse, and my roommates were like, "No more." no more of you're going to get off this crap. And I was like, why? Um,
No, how did they, was your social worker or somebody like talk to you about it, or?
I had one appointment with what do you call it, with a counselor, and said I was depressed. Actually, I'm lying. They were going to transfer everybody who had a short period of time, like 2 years to serve or under. They were going to send them to Folsom. They were opening a women's yard at Folsom, and it was a dorm setting. I was like, I can't do it. And they said, we will not be sending triple CMS, which is people with mental health issues. And I was like, I have a lot of mental health issues and I need medication because I wasn't going to transfer. I wasn't going to do it. So um, that's all. I went. I talked to this young guy for like 20 minutes, half an hour, and then I was in Medline getting my Lexapro. Yay! Um, and Neurontin. This was during that period of time. It was heavily prescribed to everyone. And this is what is this? An anti-seizure medication, I believe.
Huh.
But it was being prescribed for everything from neuropathy to headaches to malaise, everything. And one of the side effects of this being prescribed for anything other than what it's made for is severe brain fog. So that was a very interesting couple of years. I
Jesus.
mean, and now it's what is that drug? Suboxone. That's like methadone, kind of like methadone, but
Right.
much stronger and worse. So everybody is being prescribed that. People who've never had an opioid problem. Women's parents will call crying, saying, "My daughter's a zombie. I can't even get her to call me on the phone. I don't know what they got her medicated with." It's this Suboxone because the MAT program, the drug program, that's part of it. Is to get on this opioid blocker. The opioid blocker that when you do heroin, you don't know you're high, so you overdose. That's what this is. Um, so people are paroling addicted to this opioid blocker who didn't have a drug problem when they went in. Even in drug busts now, they're finding this Suboxone along with the meth and the heroin and the coke. They're finding that too, um, and it is manufactured by the same people who make the Narcan. So create the problem, sell the solution.
Jesus.
There was a huge nationwide scandal with this drug because they were trying to encourage doctors to prescribe it to everyone. The Department of Justice got a hold of it and started criminal investigation. And I think the ticket was like $3 or $4 billion for them to drop the criminal investigation. So they paid, and they just switched the names up a little and started got it like a DBA and started making this medicine or that. So things normal program for them, but California got 300 million out of that settlement from the Department of Justice, and they
And I'm
accepted that
sure,
300 million.
and I'm sure that the fucking inmates got some of that, didn't they? No, they didn't. No, they didn't. They got maybe an extra fucking goddamn
Right.
pillowcase made out of paper. You fucks.
No, they got more Suboxone because they're still pushing it. They're still pushing it, and people aren't just using it as directed now. They're using it like a narcotic. Um, they're selling it. They're it's not like as high in demand as before because now since everyone has a prescription, it's not that serious. You don't have to pay $300 for a strip or something, because you got on it too. So that's
I've talked to two different people in my life who were heroin addicted and then switched over to methadone.
Mhm.
And two different people said the same thing. One of them specifically, both of them said that the methadone detox was worse.
Mhm.
An ex of mine said, she said that it took her 3 days to detox off of heroin. It took 30 days to detox off of methadone. And guess who gets that cash instead of fucking Henri on the block? Okay, instead of whatever, it's government again.
Mhm.
DMV shit. I mean, it
Right.
almost, it's got to be malevolence at some level. It's just got to be,
Mhm.
and then it's bureaucracy, ineptitude, and greed. right?
Yeah, it's disgusting, and it is so nasty. It's so foul. The kick from the Suboxone, I have been told that it's the worst out of all drugs that anybody's ever experienced. I have a friend who told me if she doesn't take a bite of a pill every couple weeks, it feels like her bones are melting. Like she can't function if she doesn't have something in her system. It just hurts too much. So that's horrible. That's wretched. Um, but it's doable. I told her, I sent the articles in. I told everybody, I know all y'all are on this. This is, let me give you the real. This is not normal what they're doing to you. Um, no, you know, you could get sober without getting on drugs, right? um,
Not
they
apparent, not according to the government.
scandalous.
Um, so, by the way, before we continue, your Wi-Fi is cutting out a little bit just because the camera. It's all right. Don't trip. But it's still, the audio is coming through beautifully, so it's all good.
Okay, sorry. I'll go. Maybe if I throw my phone's on airplane mode. I don't have any other technology.
Don't don't worry about it. It's all good. All right, now, you cool go a few more minutes?
Yeah, please, because we got to talk about this one weird thing that's happening.
Ta-da! Now, let me set the stage, because all my fans, all my followers, which I only have like, because I'm so heavily shadow banned, I have like 17. But I mean, I
17.
literally no, I have 21.7 thousand people who follow me on Instagram, and something I posted yesterday has 125 likes. Bro.
Mhm.
Yeah, the white liberals really don't like me. But anyway,
Man.
so, but it's not news to any of my peeps. But not only is, you talk a lot about, especially with women to woman,
Mhm.
and on online, whatever, this idea that you're giving a voice to the voiceless. I don't know anybody, we've talked about all the different shades of it, who has less of a voice. You know what I mean? Like, at least, we hear from kids activists or advocates pretty
Mhm.
often, and they deserve it, and they absolutely need it, especially these days. But
Mhm.
like, no one, I don't know anybody else besides you who's like really like sticking their foot in the like, no, we got to get something done. The
Mhm.
voice to the voiceless for the inmates, and specifically for the female inmates. What are they facing when it comes to the trans issues, and when did this start?
January 1st, 2021 is when the implementation of SB 132, which is Senator Scott Wiener's Transgender Respect Agency and Dignity Act, began to unroll. Now, if you hear that name and you think that must be a noble bill, but if you're formerly incarcerated, you know ain't nobody got no respect, agency, or dignity in the pen. So if you're going to give that to a small privilege group, we're automatically going to have a problem. Um, Plus, when it's being written by people that hate women, it's dangerous. It's very dangerous. If there would have been partnership in the frameworking with people that actually cared about these women instead of people that get paid off of this, it would have made a world of difference, because I genuinely care about even the trans women that would really like if I was not alive, because I don't want anything to happen to them or worsen their quality of life anymore either. They're being done dirty just as bad as my people. You can't put a sex offender in a women's prison and expect them to not reoffend. You can't put somebody with a big old rape jacket who rapes men in the women's prison and expect things to be wonderful. You're ruining that person's life too. Everybody is being abused heavily by the state with this law. So this was marketed to the women as an out for sensitive men who were being abused and assaulted and needed a safe place to do their time. So when you're telling that to these women, they're like, "That sounds cool. All right, they're hurt, they're in danger. Okay." And they're telling them these are trans women. So they're thinking trans women. They're not thinking, you know, um, EOP, SNY dropouts that are fully tatted and gangbanging still. Um,
EOP, SNY.
well, a special needs yard, that's where you go when you drop out or when you when you debrief, when you defect from
A gang.
whatever you're banging. Yes.
Okay.
That's where you go, and if you continue to have problems, then you can hide in EOP, which is extended outpatient. So that's for the crazy people. But once you burn all of those yards and your safety is still at risk, where are they going to send you? Where can they put you to let you complete your sentence without being murdered? Oh, women's prison. So it's become men's PC dumping grounds. Um, because the majority of these people, they are security risks. They are in danger, but not from being raped, not because of their trans status, but because of other things. A person, witnessed a murder, went to court and told on the dude, so the police wanted to house them together. So where are you going to go? To the women's prison. Another individual who has nowhere else to run either. Nobody left to rape at the men's prison, so send them over here with the ladies. There's no requirements other than self ID. Also, they were told that there was going to be a strict screening process to make sure there were no woman beaters or woman haters or rapists that were going to filter in. But 33% of them are registered sex offenders. So this is not somebody's first rodeo on a sex crime. So somebody who's already been out, processed, and come back. They were also told, what were they told? That they didn't know that people were going to come fully intact. They thought there were going to be guardrails and precautionary measures put in place to make sure that things like pregnancy wouldn't happen. That was not true, because the only requirement is your own self-declaration. I'm non-binary. I'm a woman. I'm two-spirit. I'm Mehu. Whatever. As long as you don't identify purely as what's on your birth certificate, then you qualify for transfer, and by default, you will go. They can deny you. They haven't. They can deny you, but you can grieve it within a 30-day period and go to another review board, and they will then grant your transfer.
No, they said let me get some clarification. They said that there would be guardrails. Does that mean that they would be giving the boys or the trans or whatever the fuck saltpeter, or does that mean they would, be snip snip, or what?
I think, yeah. I mean, people were under the impression that this would be for like post-op trans people, women, and that's not even remotely a requirement. You don't have to be on hormones. You don't have to want a surgery of any sort.
You don't even have to want one.
Mm-mm. But it does, I think it does make it more convincing. So you can say you want to get the surgery. You can say that, and as soon as you get there, you just grow your beard out and start working out on the yard with the mattress tied to your back and your balls hanging out of your dolphin shorts, and living it up. It is as bad as I thought it was going to be, because I went in May. I was blessed with an opportunity to go inside in May, and it was literally the best day of my life. I was like, I'm glad to be here. I just was so happy to see my folks, and so happy to meet the friends that I've made since I've been home that I never met before. And to see a man walk out onto the yard in our prison was the most unnatural. This is sacred ground for us. For me, that's sacred grounds. That's where I was raised. That's where I became a woman. So to see us like a perp, somebody who's abusing this opportunity to do easy time and do what predators do, I'm not mad at them. This is not their fault. They didn't make this law. Was very it just made my stomach drop. My heart was in my throat. I was just like, no, man, this ain't the way. And I was looking at these women, and I'm like, they're being erased right in front of their own eyes. They're just watching themselves be erased, while these people come in from the men's prison and they have rights that they've never seen before. They're asking them, what are your honorifics and preferred pronouns? What? When I came in, they were like, fat bitch, you go over there. You go over there. And I was like, what? Sexism? What?
Oh shit.
Crazy. Who does that? Then they're given so much. They're prioritized a lot, and their healthcare is different. They have a lot of different things they can take advantage of, like full body laser hair removal. Shit, yeah, let me get that. There's plenty of ladies with beards in there that would really like that, but they don't
I
get
know.
it.
Let me just again. So a dude can go into prison, a female prison,
Mm-hmm.
make everybody feel super fucking safe,
Mm-hmm.
and then get laser hair removal.
And tits. You could get breast implants. I have received the information from the Department of Corrections Health Care Services. There have now been 7 pairs of breast implants that have been provided. Um, penectomy is not a requirement for your breast implants. Um, Adam's apple reduction, facial feminization is now also available. So this is just plastic surgery. This is straight up, jaw. Got to round out that jaw a little. They just told someone who crushed 2 of his infant children that they were going to go ahead and give him rhinoplasty while they were doing the feminization of his jawline, their jawline. When I was there in May, there was a woman who we've been communicating, and she really needs a breast reduction. She has fused vertebra, she has herniated discs, and she has like permanent deformities. The indentation, there's a dip in her shoulder from these bras, and she was denied twice. The day that we met, she got another denial for a breast reduction. And she said on her way out, her neighbor, who is from the men's prison, said, "Ooh, girl, look at me. I got mine done. I'm trying to get like you. I'm trying to catch up. Look at my titties." And I was speechless, because how much more degrading, how much more dehumanizing is left to do? I don't really want to know, because I'm sure they could go lower, but this isn't normal. This is by far the worst, cruel, and unusual way out thing I've ever seen. And it's happening because nobody cares. And part of me keeps thinking, if I humanize them, and I maybe if people could see who I see when I look at them, then they would give a shit. Maybe they would vote differently. Maybe they would say something, or write their state representative, or I don't know, do something, because this is really ugly. Um, you can get a breast reduction if you're a trans man, but if you're a regular plain Jane lady, you get nothing. You got nothing coming. They will tell you it's cosmetic.
I've never felt what I feel right now.
It feels like the world is like somebody pulled the rug out from under you, right?
But
Like, oh,
not just that. I mean, I've felt like I feel right now, but never on the show, or rarely. I want to do violent things.
yeah,
Like, and as a man who knows, like, not just how vulnerable and at the whim of the state the inmate is, but how, and don't get me wrong, I've been angry at women many times in my life and on this show. And I'll be there in a second. But but to know how valuable women are, and
them though, not them, not that kind.
and to have them be treated the way they're being treated, even worse, to have the women be treated in the shit fuck way that they're being treated by motherfuckers who say that they love women and are doing it because they have a big heart. Fucking die with that bullshit. Scott Wiener, eat my fucking balls, you fucking piece of shit. All of you white liberals in San Francisco, you killed your own city, and that wasn't enough for you kids. You had to ruin women's lives, you fucking cocksuckers.
Oh. And he, you know what? He had the audacity to say, the weendacity. He said, "This is a very well written law that I'm very proud of." I was like, this mother, or is he serious? He said, the only people who have a problem with this piece of legislation are right-wing TERFs. And I was like, TERFs? You know that women in prison don't even know this terminology. So you're going to put them in a category of what has become a derogatory term for a woman who is all about women's rights and doesn't want hers taken and given to somebody else to skinwalk in. There was ways that he could have done this that included general concern for all people, but he don't care about all people. But it gets worse.
I guarantee you.
The frame workers, the participants of making this a thing, are the nonprofit industrial complex. They are the organizations that are generally considered to be prison rights advocates and abolitionists and, things for women's prisoners and stuff. They're the ones who pushed this and said they don't want to hear nothing that Amy got to say with this transphobic bullshit. And I was like, this is not about trans. There's dudes with dicks in there. That's what I'm talking about. And they're like, see, there you go. I'm like,
I just have to also say, because I can't go long without it. Scott Wiener's a white piece of shit. So like, I'm just let me rephrase that. Not that I disagree with that statement, but let me rephrase that. The people who are hurting women the most, who are hurting people the most, are doing it under the banner of being an ally. I'm an ally, right? I'm a person of color ally. Guess what? In California, correct me if I'm wrong, fucking almost so many prisoners are people of color. So many people, so many women. And yet they're the ones who are feeling unsafe.
So unsafe. So unsafe. So freaking unsafe. As a matter of fact, one of the most unsafe Black women right now is just retaliated on and targeted. And, she'll try and communicate these needs to staff and say, I'm being stalked. If I'm jogging on the track, they chase me. Standing in line for the phone, and they'll stand next to her, start shadow boxing. Step off, move over, slide off, but it's because she's outspoken and she does podcasts and she writes pieces that she's a threat. She's public enemy number one. And she sent me something last night that I didn't even sleep because we're talking back and forth in messaging, and then all of a sudden I get a message and it just says prayer at the top in all capitals. And it's her literally crying out to the Lord, begging for help because there's no relief in there. There's no respite from this. She's tired. And so many of the women are conditioned and just going with it because they know that historically they do stand up and say something and either nothing happens or you get penalized. They watched another friend of mine who was found suitable for parole after over 20 years being down, but she had written an inmate complaint about the implementation of this legislation, and they popped her for harassment and false reporting. So those two write-ups cost her parole suitability. So she's still sitting in there. They didn't even adjudicate these write-ups before they revoked her parole suitability. And then she was told by her attorneys to write an open letter of apology for her transphobia, that is a result of her strict religious upbringing. And she said no. She said no. And she's actually one of my biggest inspirations. She's like, Amy, I'm not even mad. You know, if I would have been home, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to witness to these people. I wouldn't have been this close to the Lord right now. And um, I would have been a dirtbag. So I stood firmly on my belief system and my values, and I'm writing it out. I'm like, damn, that's crazy. Thank you. Um, she really makes me want to be a better person. But these, I don't know how people can go to work or live with themselves knowing that this is happening. Um, the administrators are very out of touch. I mean, they're the ones who think like, oh, just put them on a different tier. There are no tiers in the women's prison. One level, man. There's no tiers. It's dorm. It's 4 units on each yard, and it's 4 hallways. It's 32 rooms, and there's 8 women in a room, and it's women. So that means there's 32 different programs running in this unit, and they could switch up in the middle of the day. There's all kinds of crazy woman stuff going on over there. And they don't even know that. They're completely unaware. I think there's administrators that have never set foot in a women's prison. Scott Wiener hasn't gone. He went to San Quentin. He went to San Quentin, but he sure ain't never been to the women's prison. Um,
And San Quentin is, I'm pretty sure it's level 2. Like it's lifers, right? Like lifers
it's yeah,
mind their own business when it comes to some violent shit most
and
of the time, not all the
it's
time.
trying to like turn it into some kind of like McDonald's playland. They're going to take death row off, and there's actually 400 men who have not yet voluntarily come off of death row, and they have to be out by the end of the year. So I'm concerned about where they're planning on putting those people who haven't voluntarily come out. It better not be at women's prison, um, because they were. I think they were going to invest in remodeling the entire death row and making some, I don't know, Willy Wonka candy factory or something, because they already took the gas that the gas chamber out, and they were going to make it some kind of a learning center, um, for the California model, which is a copy of the Norway model, um, which is interesting, but it's a big ass state with a lot of different, more, variety packed than Norway. It's just different stuff going on. I appreciate that they're trying different avenues, but I know it's all fake.
Well, because again, it doesn't matter even if, I mean, Scott Wiener is an evil person, but even if the administrators and the legislators had good intentions, which who knows, even if they have good intentions, they're completely detached.
Mm-hmm.
At best, it's just ignorance to what the life is and to how to help these people. At most likely, it's indifference and virtue signaling to the people who give them campaign money, right? At most likely.
What you know about campaign money? You know the anti-recall effort when we were trying to recall Newsom was given $2.75 million from the Correctional Officers Union, 2.75 million, and then their contracts were renegotiated, and they all got $5,000 bonuses, and that was around lockdown time, the final steps of getting this bill passed, and all that other weird stuff they did while we were hiding in our houses because Newsom had to go to the laundry place and have dinner.
Friend.
Yeah. That was interesting. I mean, everything is very obviously and undeniably
corrupt and fucked up.
Yes, corruptifornia.
And not just that, but I mean, I visited some family in San Diego during Christmas, and I used to live in the Bay. I spent the majority of my life in Cali. Left it in 2019. I come back to visit once a year, whatever, twice a year. I came back for Christmas to San Diego to see some family, and I literally get I get off the plane, and I'm just like, I feel it in the air. It's just California likes regulation. They like it. They like being told what to do. As long as at the end of that carrot, this carrot on the stick of being told what to do is I'm a good person.
It's like a bad
Me
woman.
paying all this money,
Yeah.
right? Me paying all this money is for the good of the blank, right? When in reality, so many people are suffering. So many people are suffering, can't afford $7 gas and shit. It's a sinking ship, and now they want to potentially, I've heard that they might even want to run Gavin Newsom for president to replace Joe Biden.
I pray for that to not happen every single night. Every night.
Yeah.
Jesus, please no.
Yeah.
But it isn't going to take much for me to go on a worldwide tour of information, the public information tour, because if the nation isn't knowing, they're going to know.
I tweeted it the other day. I was like, Gavin Newsom is one of the most unpopular people in California. Even San Francisco white liberals don't like him.
Mm-hmm.
The idea that he would be next in line can suck every inch of my dick with that bullshit. Mm-hmm. Fuck that. There's no, just, again.
This guy is the American Psycho. This is that guy. That's him. I make memes. I do stuff. This is what I do for entertainment and de-escalation. This is him. I mean, I think even him and Kamala Harris went on a vacation without their families. I think there's a lot of bad stuff that happens over here.
Right. And by the way, just to point this out, everybody, we're two people of color who are hating on a white person. Remember in March, remember in June of 2020, you cocksuckers, when you said, just listen to black people, white people need to shut up. How about now, bitch? We're two people of color talking about a white piece of shit named Gavin Newsom and Scott Wiener saying, sit down, stop taking advantage of us, you're hurting us, and y'all are silent. Fucking sick.
It's wild. And he, the rhetoric, that the BS that we get back. I mean, like the LGBT news, they ran an article when we initially filed the lawsuit for a immediate injunction against this law, and said that transphobic TERFs filed a lawsuit. And I sent it to the plaintiffs, and they were like, what is that even? I don't know, what is that? I was like, it's nothing. Okay. Mm-hmm. It's nothing. They said, right-wing, homophobic, transphobic. I was like, not any part of me. No, neither. And it's coming from all directions. Like, there was one point where I was like, damn, like that, like even my own peers, even people I did time with, are perpetuating this image that's they're trying to cook up of me being a white supremacist, a nebulous white supremacist. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that is.
It means they're hungry for power, and they like bullying people, and they like bullying people while looking virtuous. That's all it is. That's all it is.
That's foul. And I know that that's just a dumb word, and it probably came from a member of academia who is probably some kind of CIA plant who takes advantage of all these people. But I'm fin to see you, person. We're going to have our time. All of this stuff is going to come to light. All of the people who sold out our people so that they could get their lame salaries. It's written on, their checks are written on the backs of their own people, I know people got to put food on the table and they need jobs, but it didn't have to be at the cost of our own friends. And then you have the audacity to go into the prison and continue to skin and grin when you sold them for your paycheck. Get out of here. I don't need to make nobody feel bad though, because it's not my job. I just got to keep pushing and try and get some relief.
But even if you don't agree, even if you're not a Christian, everybody, Jesus turned over motherfucking tables from time to time.
Yes, he did. And I just really want to do it sometimes too.
Well, boys, if you're listening, it's time to stand up. It's time. It's been motherfucking time. Okay. Our job is to be the protector. Okay. Be the fucking protector. Sack up, boys. Anyway,
that's the only thing. That's what we need. I'm trying to tell, because the feminists are very supportive. They're very supportive, but it's very hard to convince them that this isn't going to be remedied until men chime in on this.
Well,
Until
and I
then.
think the reason why is because they intentionally got rid of us. They intentionally closed their ears to the fact that we had heartbeats a long time ago.
Mhm.
And now they're realizing, like I can, all right, like, you know, I always go back to this, like, girls, my bicep is bigger than your face. I can help. Okay. I can help. Okay. Just, there are some things you're perfect at. You're stronger than me around some shit, but some shit I'm better at and I'm stronger at. And this is one of those motherfucking things to tell a motherfucker to sit the fuck down. Okay. Anyway, we need to stop because I got to piss and punch a hole in my wall. But speaking of standing up, can you please give us, fuck giving us a solution? What can we do to help?
Well, I know this sounds corny, but the stamps are very expensive. They just went up again. And I got, you know, I get mail like this every day. I got to answer these mails. Stamps are always a very nice way that you can contribute to what I'm doing. I don't really know how to ask for help, but people say I need to start asking for money because I don't have funding and because I am a proud American and very conservative and I love Jesus, I don't have no funding. It's not something that is going to come easy. So financial contributions are always very appreciated. The first donation we got was $5 from Scotland. It was just the sweetest thing I'd ever seen. And other kind of contributions, it doesn't have to be money. I need to build an infrastructure. I need to build a database. I don't know how to do that stuff, and I don't really have time to learn. So, you know, people that have skill sets that they know I ain't got, it hit me up. My phone number is on my website. I'm very accessible. And no, I'm not going to schedule visits for people or have you get pen pals because, you know, I get people's feeling gets hurt. And no, we're not going to do that.
Yeah, I'm never, you know, and by the way, that risks you not being able to come in again. So no. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So people can go to this website, womaniiwoman.org. They can help out here. Is this one of the places?
Yes. I don't know. Where is it? It's some maybe lower, maybe higher, maybe on
contact us. No,
maybe.
All right, hang on. That might be a bit. Is that better? No.
Where is it? Maybe it's on the about page.
There's a get active. Okay, about woman2woman.org. Our mission, we stand for. I think I saw it on the resources. Listen, this is, you know what? This is because of Scott Wiener that we can't figure out this. We can't figure out your website. I think I saw it on the first one. Are you looking for the donate?
Yeah.
Here it is. Support our women.
Wow. Maybe we're going to make that bigger. Okay. We're going to have it.
Let's do it. Oh, you will. Yes.
Yeah.
But you can go to womaniiwoman.org and you can donate. And you can also contact. Yeah. And you can also, let me change this over. And you can also find Amy at ICHINITA, Inchinita 310 on Twitter, and iChicks310. That's CHICHIX 310 on IG. I don't like that you rep LA. That's gross. I don't like this. I'm a NorCal boy. I don't like it. You know what I'm saying?
You know what? But I'm really starting to get very, very strong feelings for the Norteño kind of folks because they're really putting it down right now. They're the ones who are activating and, you know, getting the moms rallied and fighting against this child transitioning. And they help me out. And they're going to be here the first weekend of August. And they're going to come school Southsiders on how to get active in politics. And I'm thrilled.
Wow. Okay. Sur, you gotta show up, boys. Come on, you gotta do the same thing we're doing. No, I'm just kidding. Not really. I don't bang. Leave me alone. I'm Puerto Rican. That's awesome to hear. That's yeah, because I mean, and we've seen that as well in Canada. What was it the other day? Dumb white boy said, Justin Trudeau said, "Oh, you know, the Muslims are only
Ooh,
against child indoctrination of LGBT stuff because they're being misinformed by the right-wing Americans, white supremacists." It's just like, yep, okay. So essentially what Justin Trudeau is saying is that Muslims are too stupid to think for themselves.
right.
That brown people are too stupid to think for themselves. That only white Justin Trudeau knows only white
But
Scott
if
Wiener
he
knows what's
even,
best.
I mean, his dad is Castro, right? So he's like, he needs to stop playing.
Sabes, mira. Fucking, this has been an incredible conversation. I'm so fucking grateful for you to come on and to be honest and to let me be honest. It's my first time tearing up on the show. You're welcome, everybody, you ungrateful bastards. Make sure you follow Amy on Twitter and on Instagram. And also she's got a LinkedIn or a link tree and all that stuff, and go to womaniiwoman.org. And you can support my podcast and fuck the money thing for me. Go support Woman to I Woman, or Woman to Woman. You know what I'm saying, everybody. You can find me on Instagram at Peter_Feliciano, and I will go ahead and wait, are you coming out to Austin for the
For Pride?
for Let Women Speak?
I believe so. Yes. I how can I not? You know.
Right.
Are you? Oh man, we're gonna crash it. It's gonna be so awesome. Okay, so we'll have to link. That's gonna be really rad.
We'll go get some barbecue. We'll go get some barbecue, and we definitely won't shoot any guns. Don't worry, everybody. I won't take her to the gun range at all.
Oh man, and you have breakfast tacos there, right?
Yeah.
Is it stupid?
Lower? No. It's not dumb. They got great Tex-Mex here, but I live most of my life in Cali. Like taquerias, hole in the wall taquerias have better stuff in my personal opinion. Sorry, Austin, but the barbecue, unbeatable barbecue.
What about the sushi? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, I'm stoked. This is like undeniably, something divine. I got to go, so I'm gonna lock that in and get my ticket, and I guess I'll see you like in a week or something.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, actually, there's been a few people who've been talking about that. Someone sent me a message that they're going to be here, so I'm like, you know what? Yeah, let's all do this thing. All right. So go to woman2woman.org or womaniwoman.org and go follow. And I'll go ahead and end the recording. Bye, everybody. Fuck Scott Wiener.